Hi, I'm Eric.
And I'm Dick. We're the Annuity guys.
Dick, we want to know today about whether or not hybrid annuity income riders are stacked in your favor. Now, we got a little
play on words because there are what we call the stacking income rider annuities. But you know what, Eric? I think that yes, they are stacked in the client's favor, only if they're used correctly.
Right.
And that's the key. I believe that the insurance company understands that not everyone's going to use them correctly, and that's what makes it stacked in the insurance company's favor. So if you're working in the right planning scenario and folks, you're putting the time into your planning and you're using that income rider so it's really to your advantage, then the deck is really stacked in your favor.
Well, we always talk about the desire that everybody has to have their own pension. You know, and what we talked about is using an annuity to create your own personal pension.
Yes.
Well, the best thing about using an annuity and using these income riders on these hybrid style annuities is to say, hey, I want to know exactly what kind of income I'm going to have in 10 years or in 5 years or whatever that number is. And it's knowing that income number. So it's not focusing so much on these roll-up numbers and these guarantees. It's the outcome-based planning should not be on the 8%, 7%, 14% roll-up.
It's so deceiving, Eric.
It's on X dollars going into your pocket every month when it's time to start taking income.
And this is where, in really good planning and what we call outcome-based planning, we don't really care about the sizzle of the 8%, the 14%, the 10% bonus. It's what does this annuity produce net.
Exactly.
What income can the client rely on a contractual level at a certain point in time that's going to meet that objective.
Yeah, and I had a very entertaining call. It wasn't necessarily entertaining for the person I was talking to, but someone called in and said, hey, I've got 14% guaranteed. Can you beat it?
Oh, wow.
And I knew exactly which company he was talking about, which income rider, and I said, yes, I can beat it with 8% or 7%.
They're like,
well, how can you do that?
What do you mean?
How is 7% better than 14%?
Well, go ahead.
It's a combination of, and this is the outcome-based planning side.
Yes.
The 14% rolls up, and then you have to realize that's towards your future income. These income riders are towards future income. So what you're going to do is take future income from there, and that's based off the payout percentages that these insurance companies are giving you towards your future income.
So if I'm going to give, as an insurance company, I'm going to give someone a 14% growth on their formula for future income, but when it comes time to turn it on, whatever that number increases to, I'm going to give them 2% or 3% less than another company that they can pull out for the rest of their life. And that's called your payout percentage, folks. And you really have to keep that separated from the roll-up or the growth on your cash. There's really a few different percentages that can become very confusing.
Exactly.
But if you get that lesser payout, then all of a sudden that 14% was meaningless.
Right. And this is kind of what our play on words on the income rider side is. How do you decide which one fits your situation? Because we've got these kind of traditional, I hate to say something that's only a few years old, it's the traditional style, but where you're getting that stacked or ratcheted guarantee of 5, 6, 7% every year. Now, there is a trick here. Some are compounded growth. Some are simple interest where they're getting, hey, I give you 10%, but it's only simple interest. So you've got these traditional means. Well, these insurance companies figured out they have to reserve a lot for these guarantees.
Right.
So in order to kind of keep the enticement there, we've seen this little transition now to the stacked benefits. Well, what's stacked mean? Well, I'm going to give you a smaller guarantee, but if the index performs, ta-da!
We're going to add it on top of that.
So you get even more potential growth than you would if we gave you a traditional rider.
Right. And for many folks, Eric, that has a great appeal because it can actually boost their income fairly dramatically. And if we look at probability, the probability of an index performing over a certain length of time is pretty good. It may not produce really high percentages, based on how the annuity is set up. But it will typically produce in that 3% to 4% pretty reliably. So you take that and you add that on top of maybe a 4%. Now you're talking, again, that's 7-8%
right.
that you're achieving.
And what you said is very true in the sense of over time. If it's a short time period, usually these stacked riders, it's hit or miss. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yes.
But if you've got the time cost averaged in there,
right,
your chances of hitting are much greater.
So if you can go out 8, 10, 15 years,
oh yeah,
you got a much better opportunity of doing better. And that brings us to another type of income rider,
yes.
And that's the enhanced type income rider.
And we should tell you right now, if you Google enhanced income riders, you're going to come back to us because it's more of a marketing term again.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, the enhanced income rider, where the insurance company and figuring out that they have to reserve so much for these guarantees. Well, guess what? I'm giving you a very minimal guarantee, just slightly better than zero.
Yes.
But I'm going to give you a lot more participation if we get growth in the participation performance of the index.
Yes.
So these chances of growth over a period of time can far exceed what kind of that traditional number is, but you're taking some of the risk in the sense that the index has to perform for those numbers to get to where you want.
And again, this is where we look at potential and probability, and not all folks are going to be comfortable with that. And for some folks, it's exactly what they're looking for.
And my favorite strategy anymore is usually using a combination of 2 or 3 of these to accomplish your needs. And again, it's that outcome-based planning where we say, what's the comfort level? Where do we need to be for sure? And
yes.
Would you be okay if it was better than that?
Exactly.
A lot of folks like that.
Well, and I do think that is, one of the approaches that we recommend that, other advisors take and that we try to take with our clients. And that is that you give folks several different scenarios that can accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. And by explaining these, and they can all be successful. Some are more heavily weighted on the guarantee side. Some are more heavily weighted on the probability or potential side. And that's the only way that I feel that folks can really make a good decision.
Right.
It's having, to look at those.
Having the dialogue. If inflation is something you're worried about, having something that increases income it comes into play. If having that largest upfront benefit because you want to travel in the earlier years, knowing that information is key, and having that dialogue with your advisor can help position the right products in the right situation for you.
Yes. Eric, if we were going to take income riders and just compare them in general to immediate annuities, which are all about annuity income, how do they stack up? What's the differences there?
Well, and I'll be honest, anymore I'm a much bigger fan of the deferred annuities than I was of the SPIAs because of the contractual guarantees that they have to reserve for right now. They're so low that over a period of time, lifetime guarantees, they don't perform as well as some of these deferred annuities even.
Right. So, their internal rate of return is very low. The only way you actually come out on them is to outlive your life expectancy.
Exactly. So, I'm not opposed to SPIAs. They're a good first step, but a lot of times I like them as a first starting point, and then turning on a deferred guaranteed product a little bit later on because you get better performance, better options, better flexibility.
Right. So when we look at all of these different possibilities for income riders, is the deck, so to speak, stacked in the favor of the client or in the favor of the insurance company? What's your opinion?
I think it's stacked in the favor of the client because they have the options now to pick and choose what fits their situation best.
I agree.